Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
27 years ago, a woman with a seemingly troubled life disappeared in Atlanta, Georgia. Melissa Wolfenbarger was 21, married, and the mom of 2 children, a boy and a girl. Melissa always visited her mom or called her for her birthday. She wrote handwritten anniversary cards to her parents, offering to take them out to lunch. She was thoughtful like that. But on Christmas 1998, and all the holidays and celebrations afterwards, Melissa was strangely silent. Her mom never heard from her again. As the rest of her family worried, Melissa's husband, Chris Wolfenbarger, didn't look for her or report her missing. He said the last time he saw his wife, she was walking down the street to catch a train. Many people in Melissa's life had seen her with black eyes and bruises and marks. They heard her crying. Melissa's abuse at the hands of her husband was not a secret, some said. Had Melissa run away to escape a bad marriage? Fast forward to the following year, April 29, 1999. George McEachern went out for a stroll on the bank. On his way there, he noticed buzzards flying overhead. As he walked on Avon Avenue, not far from the glass manufacturing plant where Chris Wolfenbarger worked, a surreal sight caught his attention. A skull lay in the street. George knew right away it was a human head. Thinking calmly, he took a stick and moved it out of the middle of the road to the side so a car wouldn't smash it. He called his daughter, who worked in criminal justice, for her opinion. Then he called 911. Chris Wolfenbarger was the main suspect in Melissa's death and went on trial for her murder in 2025. But eventually, authorities learned some startling facts about Melissa's family. This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You are listening to Court Junkie. When it comes to buying gifts for the holidays, I want to give people things I know they're going to really love. And if I'm gifting clothes, I want them to be timeless pieces they can wear for years. That's why a lot of my friends and family are getting gifts from Quince this year. From Mongolian cashmere sweaters to Italian wool coats, everything is premium quality at a price that actually makes sense. Every piece is made with premium materials from ethical, trusted factories and priced far below what other luxury brands charge. The craftsmanship shows in every detail: the stitching, the fit, the drape. It's elevated, timeless, and made to wear on repeat. I'll tell you one gift I got for one of my girlfriends who doesn't listen to this podcast. How rude, right? But since I know she won't hear this, I can tell you. I got her this really nice short-sleeve brown cashmere sweater that I just know she's going to love. I got the idea for it after she complimented one that I wore when we went out to dinner a few weeks ago. It's cute, so comfy and soft, and the quality is top-notch. It's what I'd expect from a $200 sweater, but it's $50. Quince has gifting covered beyond clothing too, like home, bath, kitchen, or travel. Find gifts so good you'll want to keep them with Quince. Go to quince.com/court for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/court to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/court. Atlanta police homicide detective Dale Kelly was working the day shift when George McEachern's call came from Avon Avenue on April 29, 1999.
When you got to that location, what did you observe?
When I rolled up, there was a decomposing head in the road standing upright. There's an old black plastic bag to the side, and there's an old mangy, like a stray dog with matted hair and all, kind of nasty, running around out there.
The police theory was that the stray dog found the skull and dragged it out of the woods onto the road. Officer Kelly soon made more grisly discoveries.
Later, when the cadaver dogs were called out, other body parts were found in the black plastic bag, and also had fluid in it that ended up being bleach.
The investigation was in full force. Photographs were taken to document the evidence. The medical examiner was brought in.
What did you do next?
Well, we started. Hard to run an investigation if you don't know who your victim is, and this one's even doubly hard. We didn't know what sex the person was.
Why is that?
The decomposition of the facial and the torso, we never found it. So you couldn't ever determine a sex at that time. The feeling is the torso contains the guts of the thing, and it would smell more, and the animals out there would have eaten it quicker.
Tina Miller, at the time an Atlanta police detective, testified that as the detectives were standing in the street discussing what to do next, a man who owned the garage on the corner came out and told them they might want to check the wooded area behind his shop.
He said people use that as a cut through, and there's people back there doing drugs, and you might want to check that, and we did.
And what did you find?
The railroad policeman didn't go with us, but me and the dog handler entered the wooded area, and there was kind of a path, so we're kind of walking through the path, and I'm following the dog. And the dog kept going, and I noticed off to the side a black trash bag, and I picked up the trash bag, and it was rather heavy. I opened the trash bag, and an item of clothing fell out. And it looked kind of moldy and off-colored. Well, there was another bag inside that was also it was heavy. And so I pulled it open, and when I pulled it open, I saw flesh. And I pulled it open a little more, and I saw the beginnings of toes on a foot. And at that point, I realized we'd found additional human remains, and I believed that to be a female foot.
Okay, did who all was out there at that point?
Me and the dog handler.
And then what did you do next?
At this point, the dog had gone ahead of me, and the dog went around to an area kind of behind where I was and found the leg and thigh that was in that photograph.
The bags of human remains had been found about 50 feet from Action Glass, where Melissa's husband, Chris, worked. The person's limbs had been sawed off. For Detective Kelly, a crime had clearly been committed, but he was helpless in his ability to solve it. All he could do was document what he found in the police report.
There's nothing I could do until, again, you can't start much of an investigation until you know who the person, what sex the person is, who the person is. You have nowhere to start. So Investigator Miller, who worked adult missing persons, is assigned to homicide. She would attempt to identify the body. Medical examiner's office was trying to identify. They could hook up with other medical examiner's offices and do the thing, and hook up and see if they had any information. I retired in 2000.
Okay, well, and that was, you never got an answer by the time you retired?
No.
In analyzing the skull, authorities mistakenly thought it belonged to a white male, not a woman. So they were far off track when initially trying to ID the remains. It took them 4 years to solve the mystery whose body had been dumped off Avon Avenue. Melissa Patton grew up in a family of 4. Her parents were Carl and Norma Patton. Her older sister was Tina May. Tina told Atlanta's Channel 11 that Melissa wanted to grow up to be a veterinarian and remembered her as someone who loved animals and had a big heart. If she saw a stray somewhere, she would bring it home, Tina told them. It didn't matter what it was, she would bring it home. Tina and Melissa weren't particularly close growing up. You can imagine Melissa, the little sister, and Tina, who was 7 years older. The two were opposites. Melissa was reserved and shy, Tina outgoing and more rebellious. Tina was daddy's girl. Melissa was closer to her mom. The family dynamic was a big topic later at trial, and many of the details that came out were bizarre. Melissa's childhood friend testified about Melissa's and Tina's tough upbringing. Wendy Waddell, who lived next door to the Pattons growing up, testified for the defense. She was a reluctant witness.
Ms. Waddell, suffice it to say you don't want to be here. You need to answer audibly.
You're right.
Every weekend as a child, Wendy went over to Melissa's house, which she said smelled bad. The stink permeated everything, the Pattons' house, their car, and on Melissa, so her classmates mercilessly teased her and bullied her. Wendy recalled something disturbing while visiting. She said Melissa was locked inside of her bedroom all day, every day. The locks were on the outside, and so she was trapped inside. It happened from when Melissa was around the ages of 7 to 12, Wendy estimated.
You remember telling me that looking back on the way she was treated, being locked in her room and being deprived. Well, let me back up. When you and Melissa were locked in the room, were you allowed to come out during the day? Were you allowed to get drinks of water?
Hang on. Yeah, you're shaking your head. Is that a no? No, we weren't allowed to come out.
And were you allowed to get a drink of water?
Yeah, we can get, what was they were thirsty?
Okay. Do you remember telling me that looking back, you would consider that she had been abused and neglected?
Yes.
Today, if someone were treating their child like that, would you call defects?
Relevant, Your Honor. Objection.
Probably. Hang on one second. Sustained.
Melissa's personality seemed stunted, according to testimony. She acted younger than her age. She cried and whined. She was naive and submissive. She wasn't the kind of person to fight back. Wendy had been the leader and Melissa was the follower. Wendy moved away at age 13. When she left, Wendy said Melissa lost her only friend. Dressed in a blue inmate jumpsuit, Wendy was open about her substance abuse issues on the stand.
Look, I get high every day. I do drugs. So I'm just trying to tell you, I don't know, it's what I say. And I hate to burst your little bubble. I'm just telling you, I do heroin every day. And I'm going through withdrawals. And that's the whole point I didn't want to come here. So I don't know what this would be.
Were you on heroin when you talked to me on the phone? You're on heroin right now?
Only because I'm locked up. Sweating to death.
The jury would have to decide whether or not they found her to be a credible witness. But according to Wendy, Melissa's parents were withholding and cruel, locking their daughter in her room. Melissa did not come from a happy, loving family. Meanwhile, however, Melissa's mom, Norma Patton, denied locking her daughter in the bedroom when she took the stand. She told the jury Melissa started dating Chris Wolfenbarger, her future husband, around her freshman year of high school. It would derail the rest of her life. Melissa began running away to see him. Melissa's father, who owned a roofing company, actually employed Chris before he became his son-in-law. Nobody in Melissa's family liked Chris, especially Norma.
I didn't want them seeing each other because I felt she was too young.
Norma described the cruelty she saw in Chris's eyes.
In all your interviews, however, you've been very consistent and made it very clear that on one thing, and that is that you despised Christopher from the very first time you saw him. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
You said that you didn't like the way his eyes looked.
Right.
You've said in podcasts that you just saw meanness in his eyes.
As my mother would say, that's
the very first time you met him, and he would have been about, 15 years old?
Somewhere around there.
Maybe even a little bit younger?
Older, maybe.
Maybe a little older?
Because I believe he was driving at that point.
When he first started dating Melissa, you had him arrested at your house many times, didn't you?
I did.
Reported him as trespassing.
Yes.
How many times would you say? 8? 10?
I don't know.
You did everything.
Make a guess.
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't make a guess.
Okay. You did everything you could to prevent them from dating, though, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You moved her. You moved her to a separate location for a while, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You isolated her. You tried to prevent her from leaving your house. Correct?
Correct.
When was the first time you remember Melissa running away from home? I'm not asking you why she ran away. I'm just remember, when was the first time you remember her running away from home?
When she met Chris.
And you always reported her as a runaway, correct?
I did.
And Carl always spanked her when she came home from running away, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Do you recall an episode where Melissa found a dead baby in a clothes hamper in your house?
Yes.
Wasn't your daughter, Tina, prosecuted for that?
Yes, she was.
I'm going to object. Grounds of relevance.
So that second question, I'm going to sustain your objection, but the first question is overruled. Go ahead, Mr. McDermott.
Wasn't it Melissa that found that baby?
Yes.
And was that around 1992?
1991.
91. And Melissa would have been 14 years old at that time, right?
Right.
Tina had given birth in the family house. Melissa was the one who found the baby that had apparently been stillborn. Melissa told school officials, who then notified the police. Tina was ultimately convicted for concealing the death of another, according to court testimony. That was apparently the last straw for Melissa. That's when she started running away, according to the defense. Even though her family was against Chris, Melissa didn't care. She ignored them. She kept going to see him.
I tried my best to keep them separated, and I would watch her take the birth control pill, and I thought she was taking them, but come to find out she was not taking them.
Melissa got pregnant, and right after, she and Chris got married. They had a daughter. Less than a year later, they had their second baby, a boy. As a young mother, Melissa often struggled. She was then arrested for car theft. She gave up custody of their kids, and Chris's mother began taking care of them. Melissa's kids eventually called their grandmother Mom. Around this time, Melissa reconnected with her older sister. Here's how Tina described it.
Did you keep in contact with Melissa Wolfenbarger?
I was kind of mad at my parents. Well, more mad at my mom. I was upset with my mom. So I really didn't call home much. But all of a sudden, one day, somebody comes up to me at Waffle House and says, "Guess who you're going to be training tonight?" And I'm like, "Who?" They said, "Your sister." And I'm like, "What?" And she was married then. She was already married to Chris.
Okay. And what year was that, if you can recall?
97.
Okay.
Yeah, 97.
So that was roughly the year before she disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa started working the third shift at Waffle House with her sister Tina and Tina's boyfriend Troy. Occasionally, there were some exciting moments there. One night, WWE wrestlers were their customers. Chris always dropped Melissa off at work. Sometimes he came into the restaurant, mostly just watching her. Melissa was also undergoing a resurgence. She began making new friends. Thomas Michael Dixon, or Mike, was friends with Melissa around this time. He said he felt protective over her when he saw her crying hysterically about Chris. He testified that Melissa never actually told him she was married. Over smoke breaks at work, she opened up to him about the abuse she faced.
She would talk to me about her abusive relationship with Chris.
Okay. How, and you say abusive, but when you describe it as abusive, what exactly did she say to give you the impression she was describing abuse?
I mean, she wouldn't really exactly describe the details, but I could see it. It was visible on her body.
And what do you mean by that?
The marks, the scratches, the bruises.
Okay. You saw signs of what appeared to be abuse.
Yeah.
And where on her body would you see that?
On her arms. I seen one on her cheekbone.
Melissa and Mike, already close work friends, then became lovers. On the stand, Mike admitted they had unprotected sex. That would be important later on. Things got worse between Melissa and Chris. Tina recalled an incident between Chris and Tina's boyfriend, Troy.
Melissa was running late this time. She was running late getting there, and I was standing in the back by the office door, just looking out front, watching what was going on, because it wasn't time for me to go out front yet. The manager was counting the money for us to take out, and Melissa came in. She came through the swinging door at the back where I was, and I looked at her, and she had tears in her eyes. And her nose was red, her eyes were red, because that's always how she got when she was crying. We all do when we're crying. And everybody in my family anyway. And I noticed that she had like red marks around her throat. And I said, Melissa, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Wait a minute. Is that a handprint around your throat? And she just looked at me and her eyes filled with tears. And I said, did Chris do that to you? And she just looked at me. She didn't really say nothing. And then I just turned and was going to go out the door. I was going to go say something to Chris.
Okay. Did you?
She wouldn't let me. She stopped me. She said, you'll make it worse.
Can you tell the jury what happened after that?
I went out front. Troy evidently heard me in the back room saying something to Melissa. So he was coming towards the swinging door when I was going out it. He said, what's going on? I said, he hit my sister again.
What happened after that?
Troy went over there and confronted him and hit him. And he just looked out the window.
I'm sorry?
Chris just looked out the window.
Okay. How long did that continue?
Not long, because one of the other employees came and grabbed Troy and pulled him away and got Chris out the door.
Okay. Now, what period of time, if we're trying to orient, you started, I think you said during that 6-month period during 1998.
Sorry.
Okay. So if we're looking at that beginning of 1998 period, can you tell the jury, as best you can, when did that happen?
That was more towards the end of 97.
Tina convinced Melissa to live with her for 2 weeks to get away, but Melissa only stayed with her for 1 week.
So we would sit up at night talking about stuff, and then all of a sudden she decided she wanted to go home because the kids. So I took her home. And she was getting out of the car, and I was getting out with her, and I was going to hug her to tell her goodbye. And he came out of the house, Chris, and was coming down the steps, and he called me a bad name. He called me a B. And I started going up the steps. He said, if you put your hands on my sister again, I will beat your butt. And she grabbed my arm and said, Tina Mae, shush. You're going to make it worse. She always said I would make it worse.
Okay. Did anything happen after that?
No.
Okay.
She quit after that.
Looking back, one conversation haunted Tina.
We were sitting having breakfast one morning, me, Melissa, Chris, Troy, and there's another waitress sitting there, Diane. She was a friend of mine. She'd been working with me for a while, and we were all sitting there eating breakfast, just having a conversation, talking about whatever. And then all of a sudden, Chris pops off with, well, I know how to get rid of a body if I need to. And me, Diane, and Troy looked at each other like, what? Because we were just talking nonsense about silly little stuff or about the news of the day or whatever, just cutting up laughing. And then all of a sudden this comment comes out of his mouth.
Okay. And your testimony is you don't recall the context or what happened or what was said before that.
Well, that was the thing. It wasn't like we were talking about being mean to somebody or killing people or nothing. We were just sitting there cutting up about little silly stuff. And then all of a sudden this comment comes out. And we're all like shocked because it's like, where did this comment come from? Why would he say something like that?
Okay. At any point, did you ask the defendant about that statement?
Oh, no.
Okay. Do you recall if anybody else asked him about it and if there was a response from him regarding that?
No, nobody said nothing. Everybody was just surprised, shocked.
In the summer of 1998, in the southern heat, Melissa's mom remembered her daughter wearing long-sleeve shirts and jeans to cover up the evidence of her abusive marriage.
Were you aware of an arrest that occurred on the defendant, Christopher Wolfenbarger, in July of 1998?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of why that arrest occurred?
Because he had knocked her down and dragged her along the sidewalk.
Okay. Now, I want to make sure that we're talking about information that you are getting from the right source. Where do you get that
from Melissa.
Okay. And when did she tell you that?
And when me and her dad came and picked her up from where they were living on Brookline Street.
Okay.
When we took her back to the house, and I saw the abrasions on her backside. Her dad did not see those abrasions.
Okay. And when you say abrasions, what do you mean by that?
Her whole backside was skin up, like she'd been dragged along the sidewalk.
So was that consistent with what she told you about being dragged?
Yes.
Did you see scrapes, redness, or blood when you observed that?
Yes.
And if you could stand up and I'm not going to have you stand up. But when you say it around her back, how large, you could just demonstrate, how large of an injury would you say you just demonstrated?
I'd say probably something along that line.
Okay. All right. And did Melissa tell you who was responsible for that?
Chris.
Chris wouldn't face any punishment for what happened. His trial got called off.
Do you know if the case went forward that date?
No, it did not.
And why didn't it?
Because Christopher asked the judge to let him speak to Melissa alone.
Okay.
And the judge allowed it.
All right. And after that, what happened to that case?
Melissa left with Chris. I went to daycare and picked up Christina and Joey because I was the only one that could pick them up. And I met with Kathy Wolfenbarger and handed the kids over to her.
Okay.
Because Melissa was going home with Chris.
The charges were dropped and Melissa went home with her husband. In the fall of 1998, Melissa went to jail for a probation violation. According to court testimony, she did not take her GED classes and finish her community service, sparking the violation. When her mother went to visit her, Melissa had the same demeanor as always. She was the same quiet mama's girl. In between talking to her mom about her upcoming court hearings, Melissa made a special request.
At that time, she asked me that told me that she wanted something special for Christmas. And I said, okay, what would you like? And she said, it's not something you can go out and buy, Mom. She says, you don't have to go out and buy it. And I said, okay. And she said, I want a picture of me and Pawpaw.
Okay. Who is Pawpaw?
Pawpaw was Carl's father.
All right.
And he passed away on one of the times that Melissa had run away.
Okay. I see. Okay. Did that have an impact on Melissa?
Yes.
All right. And is that why she wanted that photograph?
Right. And she said that's all she wanted for Christmas.
Okay.
So I went and I found a picture of her and her pawpaw that I liked and I thought she would like. And I made it into an 8x10. And I wrapped it up to have it to give to her Christmas.
On November 9th, 1998, Melissa was back in court for a hearing. Before a judge, she disclosed that she was pregnant, shocking news to her mother and father, who were also in the courtroom. After that, her family never saw her again. Norma didn't get a chance to give her the family memento that she had asked for that Christmas. By then, Melissa was radio silent. Melissa stopped reporting to her parole officer after December 10th, 1998. And Mike, Melissa's lover, also testified that the last time he saw her was sometime that December. Chris's mother, who was taking care of their children, didn't know where to look, so she didn't even try. Norma told the court that she finally convinced her husband Carl that something was wrong when Melissa failed to send a card or call for Norma's birthday on February 24th, 1999. Norma said she went to Melissa and Chris's house in Atlanta, but it was empty. No one was living there. She then tried to confront Chris at his job at the glass company, but he wasn't there either. Melissa didn't have a landline, and this was a different era before the popularity of cell phones. The mother could not find her daughter. Norma was questioned about the long lapse in looking for Melissa.
If you knew something was wrong with Melissa at Christmas, why did you wait almost 60 days before you went up to check on her?
Because I had to convince her daddy that something was wrong.
Do you drive?
Yes.
Do you have a car at the time?
Yes.
Why didn't you go by yourself?
Because I didn't want to go to Atlanta by myself. He kept telling me that she's going to call today, and giving her more time because she didn't have access to a phone like I had access to a phone.
She worked at Waffle House, didn't she?
Yes.
And she could have called you from Waffle House?
I don't know.
She sent time.
She had never called me from Waffle House, so I'm not sure when she worked at Waffle House.
I see.
The time frame of when she worked.
You went up to Brookline after your birthday.
Yes.
Found nothing. Why didn't you report her then?
I tried to.
To Atlanta?
But yes.
Okay. Do you remember telling Detective Calhoun in 2003 that one reason that you didn't report her is because you had another daughter that left for a long time without contacting you? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay.
According to Tina, their father, Carl Patton, showed up unannounced at the Waffle House where Tina was working.
When was the first time that you had a concern about the whereabouts of your sister, Melissa?
When my dad walked into the Waffle House in February of '99 and asked me where my sister was.
Okay. Why was that a concern for you?
Because it was right after Mom's birthday. Mom's birthday is February 24th. if my sister didn't go see my mom, call my mom, or send her a card for my birthday, then something was wrong. Because Melissa always called mom or got in touch with mom or something on her birthday. Always. She never forgot mom's birthday. I did. But she always remembered mom's birthday.
Okay. And so this is February of 99. After he comes into the restaurant, what do you do after that?
Nothing. I just was like, I was surprised. I remember I called my grandmother and asked her why Dad was looking for Melissa. Because at the time he came in, it was lunchtime, so I was kind of busy. So I couldn't really sit down and talk to him and have a long conversation about what was going on. He just came in and said, "Where's your sister?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why?" He said, "Well, I went to go look for her and I can't find her nowhere. Nobody knows where she is." I said, "Well, Dad, she doesn't work."
1999 went on. Norma did not report her daughter missing to law enforcement until January 2000. Remember, Melissa's skull was found on April 29, 1999. Investigators had struggled for quite a while to identify the remains. Finally reaching an Atlanta police officer, Norma said she was initially discouraged. The officer she spoke with told her Melissa was at least 18, an adult, that there was nothing Norma could do. But there was a deep, dark secret Norma was holding on to, something that would help her gain some leverage to make law enforcement finally listen to her about her missing daughter.
Was there a name associated with your husband, Carl Pack? Was there a nickname associated with him?
Yes.
And what is that nickname?
His nickname was Hot Shot.
Another nickname, specifically a national nickname associated with your husband. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And what is that name?
The Flint River Murders.
Norma's husband and Melissa's dad was a serial killer. You know what I recently noticed? There's one thing that remains a constant in every single outfit I have worn lately, whether I'm working from home, at the gym, or out to a holiday dinner. And that's Honeylove. I now own everything from their underwear to their super comfy bras to their supportive shapewear. I especially can't live without their Cross-Flex activity bra, and I have 3 of these that I am constantly rotating. It's supportive for those of us with bigger chests, but it's also unbelievably comfortable and cute. I wear it to the gym, out to lunch, or when I'm chasing my toddler around at home. They also have this new Cloud Embrace bra, which is the perfect gift for yourself amidst all of your holiday shopping. It's a modern wireless t-shirt bra with sturdy, lightly padded foam cups that feel like a cloud against your skin. If you're in the process of planning your holiday outfit, there's no more perfect undergarment than Honeylove, whether it's one of their bras or their shapewear. One thing I love about their shapewear is that it doesn't roll down due to flexible boning comfortably hidden in the side seams. It's dance floor approved for New Year's Eve. Honeylove is an independent, female-founded brand. All Honeylove products are designed by women who actually wear them. Treat yourself or someone you love to Honeylove this holiday season. And right now, you can save 20% at honeylove.com/court. Just use our exclusive link, honeylove.com/court, to grab your discount. After you order, they'll ask where you heard about Honeylove, so please support our show and let them know Court Junkie sent you. Celebrate this season feeling confident and comfortable with Honeylove. I'm a 2 cups of coffee a day kind of girl. In the morning, I like to enjoy a hot cup right when I get out of bed and before the chaos of all the kids wake up. And then in the afternoon, I'm feeling more like a latte, which is where Laurel's Lattes comes in. For the last few months, I've been enjoying a Laurel's latte pretty much every afternoon. I've been keeping inventory in my fridge at all times. Most canned lattes taste either too sweet or kind of fake. Laurel's is the first one that actually tastes like something I would get at my favorite coffee shop. They use simple ingredients and A2 dairy, which a lot of people find easier to digest. Look for Laurel's in the grab-and-go cooler at Whole Foods. The classic vanilla latte is my personal favorite. It's balanced, not overly sweet, just a really good everyday pickup. And they have other flavors too, like their dirty chai latte. So if you want a canned latte that tastes really darn good, grab a Laurel's. I keep buying them because they simply taste better. Give it a try the next time you're at Whole Foods, or you can get them online too at drinklaurels.com. That's drinklaurels.com. Norma Patton, the wife of the Flint River killer and the detective investigating those murders, sat face-to-face in Norma's dining room in 2003. They both had propositions for the other. Detective Bruce Jordan wanted Norma's help in the case against her husband, Carl Patton, and Norma wanted something in return. She needed the detective to help her find her missing daughter. They both agreed to help each other. Carl Patton was arrested on February 23, 2003. And less than a month later, police confirmed to Norma that Melissa's remains had been found on Avon Avenue in 1999. Norma testified that she did not instantly make the connection that Avon Avenue was where her son-in-law Chris worked. Norma followed through on her end of the bargain. She testified against her husband at his trial, where he was charged with multiple murders.
How long were you married to Carl Patton?
56 years, 6 months, and 8 days.
Did you continue to be married to Carl Patton after he provided the testimony against him?
Yes, I was.
DNA evidence linked Carl to 5 murders in the 1970s. According to media reports, Carl, a roofer, had killed for greed, getting paid as a hitman or for insurance money. Other times, Carl killed his victims who were close to him to cover up his crimes because they knew too much. One of his victims, Liddy Evans, had been shot in the head, stuffed in a sleeping bag, and her leg was chained to a concrete block before her body was dumped in the Flint River. Carl's own uncle was found in a car that had been struck by a train. On closer examination, the uncle had been shot in the head.
Just generally speaking, were you involved with some of Mr. Patton's murders?
I helped him dispose of the body.
Okay. So you were involved?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, for some of the murders, you were not involved, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you overheard Carl making plans for them?
Yes.
So you were aware of several of the details of Carl Patton's murders?
Yes.
And for one of those murders, did he try to stage the crime scene to look like an accident?
Yes.
And did he have an accomplice who was his high school best friend?
Yes.
And did Carl at some point suspect that his accomplice was telling people about the murder?
Yes.
And at that point, did Carl decide to kill that person too?
Yes.
And did he also decide to kill that person's girlfriend?
Yes.
So it's true that Carl killed some of his victims just because he was afraid they were telling people?
Yes.
That they knew too much?
Yes.
She was asked if it was true that for some of his murders, Carl wrapped up the bodies in bags, and she said she doesn't know. She said the first time she heard him ever talk about killing someone was when he was on the phone, making plans to kill for what she assumed was insurance money.
And what did you think at that moment? Did you think, I should get out of this house?
No.
Did you think that was a red flag about your husband?
I loved my husband.
And you didn't go directly to the police when you overheard your husband discussing murdering somebody?
No, I did not.
You, in fact, helped Carl plan the killing of Joe and Liddy, didn't you?
Yes.
And after he killed them, where did he kill them at?
In our living room.
And were any of your daughters home when this happened?
No.
Didn't you testify in 2003 that Melissa was in her room?
I don't recall.
Was anyone else in the house at the time?
Yes.
Who was that?
His father.
Carl's father?
Yes.
And was he awake?
I don't know.
Didn't you previously testify that he was passed out drunk on the couch?
Probably.
Yeah. Was that a habit of his?
Yes.
Was he an alcoholic?
Yes.
Okay. And did you help Carl dispose of those bodies that you killed in your house?
Yes.
And just briefly, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but how did you do that?
I don't understand how to answer that question.
How were those bodies disposed of?
They were in sleeping bags, and we took them to where they were thrown into the water.
So you drove one of them to the Flint River, correct?
Yes.
And how far was that from your house at the time?
I don't know, probably 25 miles.
Okay. And you took the other one to the Ocmulgee River, is that correct?
Correct.
And how far was that from your house?
I don't recall. I don't know.
And if you had this much involvement with your husband, why weren't you prosecuted also?
I was given immunity for my testimony against him.
Okay. And you, in fact, asked for immunity, didn't you?
Well, yes.
Okay. So you ended up serving a year of probation, is that correct?
That's correct.
Carl was especially upset with Liddy, wasn't he?
Yes.
As he saw it, it was her loose tongue that caused him to have to kill his best friend.
Yes.
And did he cut the midsection out of her pants?
I have no idea.
After he killed her?
I have no idea.
Okay. Were all of Carl's victims and your victims, were they either close friends or family members?
Family members.
Okay.
I don't, Pete was a close friend, Liddy not so much.
Okay.
Carl Patton was convicted and sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences in prison, although Norma clung to the hope he would be released someday and get parole. Even with Norma testifying against him, they stayed husband and wife. Carl was not angry at her. In 2024, Chris Wolfenbarger was indicted for Melissa's murder, an arrest finally in the cold case. According to Norma, Carl was delighted.
The indictment of this defendant for the murder of your daughter, how was that received?
He was very happy.
Why would you say that?
Well, because Chris was going to have to face up to what he did.
Carl died in prison before his former son-in-law stood trial in 2025. At trial, Chris's defense would pose the question, could Melissa's father have killed her? Carl, after all, had killed his friends and family before, and his wife helped him bleach the floors, clean up the blood, and dispose of the bodies by dumping them in the river. They were a couple with a history of committing atrocities. For decades, they had successfully covered up their crimes. When Melissa gave up custody of her children, she wanted them to be raised by her mother-in-law, Chris's mom, not her parents, as the defense attorney pointed out in his opening statements.
She did not want her parents to have anything to do with her children because they are bad people.
But Tina, Melissa's older sister, testified on cross-examination that Carl would never have hurt his own daughter.
Do you remember Detective Calhoun asking you about your father and could he have had anything to do with Melissa?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember saying, no, he's mellowed out as he got older?
I don't think that was exactly what I said, but I know I told him that there was no way it had anything to do with my dad and that my dad would not do that. Actually, I took offense to it.
Do you remember also telling Calhoun immediately after that you and your sister and your mother were the most important things in his life?
In whose life? My dad's?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember saying that he would kill anybody for you?
For us, yes.
If anybody was messing with you, they were gone?
Yeah.
That was all it was. And do you remember telling Calhoun it didn't matter who it was?
That's true.
Does that sound like a man who had mellowed out?
Your Honor, objection. The question initially was speculative in nature, or was asking a speculative question. I think he's coming back to what she thinks her father could or couldn't have done, and I'm objecting to the form of the question.
I'm going to sustain the objection to the form of the question. You can rephrase it, sir.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Alton Calhoun, now retired, was a homicide detective with the Atlanta Police Department. He was hired in 1986 and served 8 years as a police officer before he got promoted to the homicide unit in 1994. To get trained, the rookie detective followed veteran investigators around and did ride-alongs before he got assigned his own cases. In his 20-year career, he would be the lead detective on more than 150 cases in Atlanta. Detective Calhoun was not assigned to Melissa's case in the beginning. Detective Kelly, whom you heard earlier in this episode, had been. But Detective Calhoun got involved in 2003 after Melissa's remains had been identified by her dental records. A DNA swab from Melissa's mother also confirmed her identity. During his investigation, Detective Calhoun interviewed Chris.
Did he give you any relevant information?
Yes, he did.
And what did he tell you?
He just gave us some information as to his relationship with this missing person, the person that we identified in this homicide investigation, and the relationship and some background information with respect to how long he had known her, what was their relationship, when was the last time he saw her.
And did he give you any explanation why he had not talked to his wife?
No, it was just one of those things of, he thought that she had moved on with her life. He gave us a time frame when he last saw her, but thought that she had just moved on with her life, and that was just the gist of it.
Did anything in this conversation, did you find anything unusual about this conversation? Did he say anything unusual to you?
Well, again, we're speaking with Mr. Wolfenbarger. The one thing that I found unusual, he's telling us about, Melissa's his wife, when's the last time he saw her, and he said he saw her about last of March, April, somewhere in that time frame of 1999.
Okay. And why is that unusual?
It was unusual to me because Mr. Wolfenbarger was actually, talking about the time frame when we know the remains were found, so he could not have seen her then.
Did you ask him about any other men that she may have had in her life?
Yes, I did.
And what did you find out?
And again, in keeping with what he was telling us about their relationship and moving on, that he knew that she had been seeing someone else and actually identified this person as someone that he knew to be Mike. They worked together.
When you say they worked together, who do you mean?
He's speaking about Melissa and Mike.
Detective Calhoun canvassed the neighborhood and interviewed other people in Melissa's life, including her mom and Mike. What he needed was evidence to prove who Melissa's killer was. It wasn't going to be easy. No physical evidence linked Chris to Melissa's remains.
At that point, we know who our victim is. We've identified it. We're now looking for any evidence that's related to that we believe can be useful in this crime. And I think at some point we started looking for evidence evidence from the medical examiner's office to take it to the GBI to be processed.
What kind of evidence did you find?
There was, when the body was initially discovered back in 1999, there was some hair and fiber evidence. I'd say fiber evidence, paint chips and things of that nature that were on the remains.
So did you Knowing what you knew at that point, what did you try to do with this in using that information?
We took that evidence and took it to the crime lab to see what, if anything, they can do. We did things as hair comparisons. We tried to determine what these paint chips were, where they may have came from.
So where did you look elsewhere?
We also looked at the home. Again, we're talking about the homicide, so we know that they lived at 824 Brookline Avenue. We also processed the crime scene as well. What we believe could be the possible crime scene.
Okay. And that would have been on Avon Avenue.
That Avon Avenue would have been the crime scene where the remains were found in 1999. But I'm also talking about the house that Melissa and Chris were last known to live in as well.
So you try to get paint samples from there?
Yes.
Now, had Chris lived in that house recently?
No, sir.
He said in July 2003, they started processing what he believed was the crime scene, Chris and Melissa's house. He said they were looking for where her body may have been dismembered.
In this instance, we focused on two main areas: a bathroom that was in the home and in the basement.
And what were you looking for?
We were looking for, again, we knew that there were some debris found on Melissa's remains. So we went through the house, try to determine if we could figure out where that may have came from.
And were you able to figure out whether or not it came from the house?
We were not able to determine that. And yes, we weren't able to determine.
When they sprayed luminol around the house, looking for the presence of blood or matter, nothing came up.
You know, luminol will react to certain things, and it's been known to react to things such as cleaning agents. It'll get it right, and so you have to you take that sample and try to determine what it is. It was nothing that we could use in this investigation.
Did you recover anything that you would need a DNA samples from the defendant?
Did I recover any?
Or did the department?
Yes, we were able to recover hair samples. Again, we pulled these. We got the remains, if that's been said, were found in bags, and we recovered these bags, and we went through the bags. You know, we did all sorts of testing on those, and we were able to find some hair samples.
And were they compared?
Yes, we were.
Well, let me ask you this first. In order to compare hair samples, what do you need?
You need a known hair samples from the individuals. In this case, we needed hair samples from Melissa to determine if they were her hair samples. And at this time, our suspect in that case was Christopher Wolfenbarger.
And how do you get those hair samples?
We already had Melissa's because this was found at the medical examiner's office, but I have to obtain a search warrant to get Chris's samples.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Did he cooperate with providing samples?
I don't want to smile, but it's a definition of cooperate. I would say no, but I have to tell you why.
Okay.
Again, we needed to get some hair samples. We found hair samples on these remains, so we needed to get these tested. They needed Melissa's, and then we also needed those of our suspects. Well, I went and got a search warrant to get the hair samples from Christopher Wolfenbarger. It was assumed they're not going to give them up, but he didn't cooperate when I went to get them. I mean, he had no choice with respect to the search warrant. He had to give me, it was ordered that he give me these samples. But that's not cooperating.
He turned the hair samples into the lab.
And were you able to make any matches based on those samples?
We were not able to make any matches.
Detective Calhoun testified that he also spoke with Chris about Melissa's relationship with her dad.
Chris suggested to me that the relationship was, it was good. Melissa was not afraid of her father. She had no reason to be afraid of her father. And if I can just back up a little bit and give my reasons for asking him that.
Sure.
I was familiar with Call Pat, and then one of the things was, well, would she have any reason to do this? Would Carl have done this thing to her? And his comment to me was she had no reason to be afraid of her father. Suggesting to me their relationship was good. Overall, family-wise, it wasn't the greatest, but their relationship was good, and yet would have had no reason to do anything to her.
Detective Jerian Shepard, who worked in the Atlanta Police Department's cold case unit, inherited the case from Detective Calhoun after his retirement.
Did you look into the background and lifestyle of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
I did.
And at the time you came into the investigation, did you have a suspect in mind, a person of interest?
Yes.
And who was that?
Christopher Wolfenbarger.
And was there anything about the background of Melissa Wolfenbarger and her lifestyle that led you to focus on Christopher Wolfenbarger?
Yes, they had a violent, tumultuous relationship between the two.
He said he looked at police reports and spoke to her relatives, friends, and neighbors.
And what in particular can you say about investigating homicide cases, and in particular homicide cases where there might be domestic violence involved? What can you tell the jury about those types of investigations?
We come across those type of investigations often. They're also a result of some type of passion that includes jealousy and things of that nature. That's really what kind of resonates when it comes to domestic violence cases.
Okay. And are you familiar with domestic violence cases where there has been a case or a protective order that has been issued in connection with the case?
Correct, yes.
Is that something that happens often?
It is, especially when you have one partner that's very aggressive. And of course, the victim in that situation, if they're very afraid, and that's the one of the recourse that they can take.
He testified that Melissa's torso has never been found.
And did that, was there anything about that caused you to look into anything else in terms of this investigation?
It did. It raised a lot of suspicion because she was under the belief that she was pregnant.
Okay. And why was that significant in your investigation?
I thought it was significant because that's the only portion of her body that was never found.
Did you have evidence, or did you uncover in your investigation that Melissa Wolfenbarger was involved with another male at that time?
I did.
Did you know that person to be Thomas Dixon?
It is him, correct.
And did you receive any information during the course of your investigation that Christopher Wolfenbarger was aware of Thomas Dixon?
I did.
And what information did you receive?
Of course, Thomas Dixon stated, but also Christopher admitted that she was possibly involved with the male.
Okay. Did he have any other information about that male that you may have been involved with other than a male?
That they worked in the same Waffle House.
Okay. Was that the information that led you to believe that it was Thomas Dixon?
Correct.
Was that impactful to you, the fact that the defendant was aware of who Melissa Wolfenbarger was seeing?
Yes, it was.
And why is that?
Because that, again, when I spoke about jealousy being a main component of domestic violence, that raised a red flag for me immediately.
He was asked if he saw anything significant when reviewing Melissa's remains.
No, her head was removed with a saw.
Okay. You mentioned a saw.
Correct.
All right. Is it your testimony that at some point a saw became important in your investigation?
It was very important in my investigation.
All right. Did you observe remains and what appeared to be marks on the remains?
Yes.
And at any point in your investigation, did you make an attempt to see if the defendant had been in possession of a saw at some point?
I did.
What efforts did you make to determine that?
I interviewed his former employers.
Okay. Who was that?
That's Mr. Brock at the Action Glass at 858 Avon.
All right. What did the Brock say?
Christopher was terminated because it was believed that he stole a saw, a reciprocal saw.
Okay. So they recalled the saw?
Correct.
They recalled him, I guess, a belief at that time that he took it?
Correct.
And they also recalled never receiving the saw back. Is that also correct?
Correct.
All right. And was that consistent with the remains that you observed of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, her limbs and her head were removed by saw because there were saw tool markings on those bones.
Detective Shepard's case was moving forward. Finally, an indictment. Chris was going to be arrested if police could find him. After a 30-minute search of his property, they finally pulled him out of a makeshift hideout in a wine rack in the garage. Detective Shepard testified that it was like Chris knew police were coming for him. The police video of Chris's capture was entered into evidence.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just remind you again that, as I warned you at the beginning of the trial, that the next series of photographs, as you might have inferred, will be somewhat graphic, given the nature of what they'll show. So I'm giving you a moment to brace yourselves.
With the judge's disclaimer, the jury saw photos of Melissa's skull and remains. And then medical doctors testified about what they could deduce from them. Dr. Carol Terry, Gwinnett County's chief medical examiner, testified that in her opinion, Melissa's cause of death is undetermined due to dismemberment, concealment of the remains, decomposition, and incomplete recovery of the remains.
Were you able to tell if Melissa Wolfenbarger was strangled?
No.
Why not?
Because of the decomposition of the remains and the lack of neck structures to examine. That makes determination of whether or not strangulation has occurred very difficult, if not impossible.
Okay. And can you determine whether or not Melissa Wolfenbarger was stabbed to death?
No, cannot.
Why not?
Again, we're missing the torso. Someone could have been stabbed or had other injuries inflicted on the torso that would have been responsible for the death, but you don't know because you don't have that part of the body to examine.
Is it at the same difficulty you would have trying to determine if she was shot?
Absolutely, yes.
Chris stood trial in August 2025. The prosecution had no DNA tying him to Melissa's murder. No eyewitnesses existed either. And the prosecution couldn't test any murder weapon. They didn't have that either. Further complicating their case, they didn't know the cause of death or know where Melissa had actually been murdered or dismembered. Her remains had likely been out in plastic bags and in the elements for months. Then it took nearly 4 years for her body to be identified. The trial came 22 years after that. Could the prosecution overcome all of this to convince a jury that Chris Wolfenbarger was guilty? Prosecutor Vincent Fawcett showed the jury a glamour shots photograph of Melissa Wolfenbarger, beaming, red lipstick, her brunette hair curled. When I look at that photograph, I see a smile, he said in his closing arguments. I see hope. A young mother who had dreams for her children. Instead, her daughter and son would grow up to not have any real memories of their mother. They called somebody else mom, their grandmother, Chris's mom, who raised them. Melissa, a victim, missed out on a life with them. He insisted this was a trial about domestic violence. All the facts, like Chris's stolen saw at work, Melissa's dismembered limbs with marks from a saw, the history of domestic violence between Chris and Melissa, all of it pieced together proved Chris had killed her. But Chris's attorney insisted the prosecution had no concrete evidence against him. What hard evidence exists in this case? I will submit to you not one bit of direct evidence in this case points to that man right there. Not one, he told the jury in his closing arguments. This is a case in which a man is charged with an act of murder, and the state has not given one single instance of evidence of an act of murder. He said police were focused on Chris instead of investigating the Patton family, a family where there was a real-life serial killer lurking in plain sight. Did Carl Patton kill Melissa? It was possible, he said, but others could have done it too. The only person in this room for which the standard of proof beyond the reasonable doubt applies is the defendant, he said. If there's any other reasonable possibility to explain the death of Melissa Wolfenbarger, then you must acquit. Did her lover kill her because she was pregnant with his baby? Had another one of the unsavory characters in her life murdered her? It might not be hard for jurors to imagine this, since Melissa, her parents, and her older sister all had criminal pasts. The defense also mentioned another person, a family friend who may have wanted revenge. Sometime in the 1990s, the family friend was accused of molesting Melissa as a child. Melissa testified against him to try to get him prosecuted. And the family friend later discovered Carl killed his dad, who had been one of the Flint River murder victims. Maybe he had something to do with it. Or did Melissa discover her father's crimes and threaten to expose him? Was she murdered for a drug debt? Or did she die of an overdose at someone's house and her friends wanted to hide the body? You can't rule it out. There's not one of these scenarios you can rule out. And if you can't rule it out, that's reasonable doubt, Chris's attorney told the jury. He went on, "You may have a strong suspicion that Chris did it. That's not enough. You may gravely suspect that Chris did it. And the judge is going to read you a law here in a minute that says a grave suspicion is not sufficient. You need proof beyond any reasonable doubt." The jury deliberated for about 2 hours before reaching a verdict. Chris Wolfenbarger was found not guilty. As of this recording, no one has been held responsible in the sad life and sad death of Melissa Wolfenbarger. And that's all for this episode. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Rusin. Join the conversation about these episodes on Instagram @CourtJunkie. And to hear these episodes without the ads or hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, check out my Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.
With all the best movies. The holidays are brutal, so if you're feeling frugal, stream Pluto TV. Stream Pluto TV. Stream Pluto TV for free. Stream blockbuster hits like 21 Jump Street, Ted, The Expendables, and so much more on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.